She had been acting strange for months, staying late at the office, always tethered to her phone like it held some secret she couldn't risk letting go. When we talked, it felt like her mind was somewhere else, far away, behind a locked door I didn't have a key to anymore. I chalked it up to stress, maybe a demanding project, maybe life just wearing her thin. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, like any husband should, because that's what love is supposed to look like. Trust, hope, patience. You hold on even when something inside you whispers that things aren't right. But even then, deep down, I already knew something had shifted. Something had withered in the quiet distance growing between us. Then one evening, she sat across from me on the couch, her eyes glistening with tears, and said she needed to talk. My stomach sank, bracing for something I couldn't quite name. I thought maybe she was going to ask for space, or admit to feeling disconnected, lost. But no. Instead, she said she was pregnant. The world froze around me, not because of the pregnancy itself, but because I knew with brutal clarity that we hadn't been intimate in months. The timeline didn't add up, and in that instant, everything snapped into place like a cruel puzzle I hadn't realized I was piecing together all along. When I asked who the father was, she didn't answer. She turned her face away from mine, and the silence stretched so thick it could have choked me. And in that silence, the truth bloomed. Finally, she admitted it. She had been sleeping with her boss for 6 months. He was older, married, and evidently not interested in blowing up his own life. So when everything fell apart, she was left standing in the wreckage, pregnant, ashamed, and somehow still holding on to the idea of us. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. I asked her, "So what now?" And her answer chilled me to the bone. She said she wanted us to raise the baby together, that she still loved me, that we could move past this. Like love could be a patch for betrayal, like I was just supposed to pick up the pieces of her choices and build something stable from them. She said it was a mistake, that the affair meant nothing, that I was the only one she ever truly wanted. But as I looked at her, I couldn't see the woman I married. I saw someone I didn't recognize, a stranger wearing her face. This wasn't the woman who had once stood across from me and promised forever. This was someone who had gambled with my heart and wanted me to clean up the mess. She had made her choices. Now it was time for me to make mine. I didn't yell. I didn't break down. I simply stood up, walked into our bedroom, and pulled out the divorce papers I had already prepared. Call it intuition. Call it cowardice. But weeks before, something inside me had stirred. A gnawing instinct that told me the truth was lurking in the shadows. So I'd spoken to a lawyer, just in case. I handed her the envelope and said, "You made your bed. Lie in it." She broke. She cried, begged, pleaded, told me we could go to counseling, that she'd cut off all contact with him. She even offered to put my name on the birth certificate. That part made me laugh. Not a happy laugh. A bitter, hollow one that echoed through the room like something dead. I told her no. I wasn't going to raise another man's child, especially not the child of the man who helped tear our marriage apart. Packing was hard, not because I still loved her. That love died the moment the truth passed her lips, but because leaving felt like bearing a future I had once believed in. Every framed photo, every shared object suddenly felt counterfeit. I left most of it behind, took only what mattered, my dignity and the pieces of my peace. The divorce went through without drama. She didn't fight it. I think deep down she knew she'd already lost me long before the papers were signed. Some of our friends whispered behind my back, called me cold, cruel for walking away. But the ones who knew the full story understood. I wasn't out for revenge. I wasn't punishing her. I was saving myself. Something I should have done long before her confession. A few months later, I heard through mutual friends that her boss had also left his wife. But he didn't run to her. He packed up, moved cities, disappeared. She was left alone, pregnant, ashamed, and haunted by choices that no one could fix for her. I never reached out. There was no need. Some bridges don't burn. They crumble under the weight of their own rot. I started over. New apartment, new job, eventually a new relationship. Trust doesn't come easy, but I'm learning. Not to trust blindly in others, but to trust in myself again. in my instincts, in that voice that tells you when something isn't right. That's the one thing she didn't take from me. Sometimes people ask if I miss her. And the truth is, I don't. I miss who I thought she was. The version of her I built in my head. The version that never really existed. But the real her, the one who cheated, who lied, who had the audacity to ask me to raise her fair baby, that woman is a ghost. And I buried her the moment I walked out the door. In the end, it wasn't just the cheating. It was the lies, the manipulation, the staggering disrespect. She didn't just betray me. She tried to hand me the weight of her guilt and asked me to carry it like it was love. I dropped it. I walked away. And I've never felt lighter.